Hey, ding-dongs. I'm Jamie.
I'm Richard.
And this is Explain It to Jamie, the political comedy podcast in which I, Jamie, a politically innocent but curious fella from Toronto, Canada, have the complicated political happenings of the world explained to me by my politically savvy friend, Richard Lamb.
It me.
Now, you might be thinking to yourself, wait, this isn't the first Explain It to Jamie I've listened to, and the sound quality is incredible. Well, you can check out our Instagram because we got a little video of our setup. Richard has maneuvered quite the little structure here.
I'm not going to say that big recording studio had better watch its back for a serious disruptor on the scene, but you heard it here first, folks.
That's right. And also on that line, if you've noticed that our sound quality varies, or like our photos of our recording studio is always in a different closet, or like behind some Jack Astors or whatever, we are always looking for a permanent space. So you can check out our Patreon, where you can help donate and help us find a spot that we can stay forever.
That's right. We're fancy and we have a Patreon now. There's a lot of costs associated with maintaining this podcast, and if you like the show, your support goes a super long way. Even just a small amount a month makes a huge difference to us. So thank you to the people who are already supporting us. We really, really appreciate it. And to you, future supporter, what are you waiting for? Right now, a rat is our recording engineer, and we just really need to do an upgrade because I think he has a disease.
Yeah. Oh, well, hey, what do you say promo over? How about we jump right into this motherfucker?
Yeah, let's do it. So, Jamie, what is it we're learning about this week?
We're learning about the man, the myth, the legend, the alien, Elon Musk.
Oh, damn.
Oh, damn.
I mean, Elon does sound a little bit like Alien.
Yeah. I'm going to be right up front with you here. I'm not a complete dummy on Elon Musk, because you know I do a little bit of investing and I read about the stock market and stuff. And it is impossible to read about the stock market over the last 8 months and not be just, so aware of Elon Musk and Tesla.
Yeah.
But I'm also conducting a investigation into whether or not he is from the future, here to save us all.
And what are the results so far?
It doesn't look good.
Survey says ask again later.
Yeah. So we're going to learn about old Elon Musk.
Yeah, he's a pretty interesting dude. I thought that learning a lot about Elon Musk was going to really clarify my feelings about him, but in truth, I feel like everywhere I look, it's just shades of gray. He's an interesting guy, and there's so much to get excited about, and also so much to be deeply troubled about, and it's just that's the reality.
Right. So, in a way, his name Musk is foreshadowing of his general demeanor. A Musk can be a lovely thing, and it can also be a horrible thing.
Yeah, right. And an Elon
is first Exhibit A is the currency we will be using in 2300.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, let's shift this all-electric podcast mobile into theme song gear.
Okay, rev it up Tesla style.
It doesn't make any noise. It's just a totally silent revving. So
just roll that song, Richard. Here we are, back again.
Okay, Jamie, so what is it that you do know about Elon Musk?
Well, he's quite a prolific CEO and chairman of multiple corporations. His primary interests seem to be future of humanity based, ideas. And he has sort of a religious following of people who believe in him and believe in what he's selling. He's also quite volatile and egotistical, I think. Mm-hmm. That's what I know. And he's from South Africa.
Yeah.
I went to school in Canada, baby.
That's true.
Yeah, rep it.
Yes, these are all accurate things. Elon Musk, as you said, is a kind of he's a technology guy, a CEO, the chairman of many companies, the most notable of which right now are Tesla, the electric car company, SpaceX, the private space exploration and space launch company, Solar City, which is a company that he's an investor in and chairman of, but that is run by his cousins, which is a like home solar panel company. And the newest one is called The Boring Company.
That's right.
Not because it's so lame, but because it's about like boring tunnels. And it's the new company for his new mass transit system, which is called the Hyperloop. Yeah, he's a fascinating figure to just kind of like peel back a lens on, because he, in many ways, like the quickest way to describe him is people say he's like a real life Tony Stark from Iron Man.
Yeah.
And it is true that Robert Downey Jr. was like inspired by the real life Elon Musk to create his original portrayal of Tony Stark in Iron Man in 2007.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes. And that actually kind of coincided with Elon Musk's true explosion into like mainstream celebrity status, was like that factoid.
Right. And you guys thought you were getting just political like jargon and stuff. You're getting the inside Hollywood scoop.
I'm a cool guy. Yeah. I watch the Marvels. Yeah, so he inspires a lot of romanticism and a lot of criticism. Like, he looms so large as a figure. You will definitely run into his name at some point just wandering around the internet. Like, he's become so big you just can't avoid him anymore, right? Everyone probably has some idea of who he is or what he's doing. And because of that, it's been really useful to like peel into who he actually is, what actually he did, and what in theory he's actually like, and what he's actually doing. So where should we start? Should we start with like little biography?
Yeah, right at the beginning, because that's actually the stuff I know the least.
Yeah.
I sort of know him as the, the volatile media magnet.
Yeah, so as you said, Elon Musk was born in South Africa, which was like in the 80s, kind of when he was growing up. Not a super...
Is that apartheid time?
It was like the end-ish of apartheid. He was born right as apartheid was kind of ending-ish. Right. And he was, by all accounts, like an extremely intellectual and very brilliant kid. He used to be able to do this thing where like he would just like kind of K-hole and like just be completely not present. And you can like talk to him and wave your hand in front of his face and he just wouldn't respond to you. And at first his parents thought he had like a serious disability or problem, but it turned out that he just like basically was able to completely tune out the outside world and focus in completely on one thing in his mind. And
almost as if the future technology for traveling through time is mental and not.
That's right. I just watched A Wrinkle in Time the other day, and it's like, you just have to tune into the right frequency and you can travel across the universe, and the frequency is love. Yeah, Elon figured that out. He's been a wrinkle in time ever since. Wrinkle in Grimes ever since. Hey. We'll get to that later. So as a kid, Elon demonstrated like incredibly... he's like got an insane visual memory and an insane recall. He can read really fast and remember in extreme detail everything that he reads. And like I said, he can like completely tune out the outside world and just zoom in on a problem and focus it and process it. At first, they thought it was like something wrong with him. Then they realized he's just like, that's just how he functions.
Right. Well, he was like, I think I read that he was obsessed with like arcade games, and he wanted, when he found out you could get a Commodore, like the old computer, and like he's like, oh, this isn't a machine to play games. This is a machine to make games.
That's correct. And he actually, as a 12-year-old, had a game that he had programmed, published in a South African computer science magazine. This was back in the day when you couldn't like run a game off of a disk because the computers were still so basic. You had to like program it from scratch yourself and then hit enter and play it.
Right.
So his like 167 line of code game was like published in a magazine and you could play it. It was called Blastar.
Blastar. Cool.
Yeah.
That's so wild.
Isn't that interesting?
Remember that?
What a time to be alive.
You used to have to get a magazine that had the cheat codes to the video game that you bought.
Yeah.
Like, so you buy like Nintendo Power or whatever, and it would have the cheat. They're like all the moves in Mortal Kombat, and that's the only way, unless you just knew somebody who figured out a combination.
Yeah. His first computer had 5 kilobytes of space.
Wow.
Which is like a number you only see when your internet connection is really not working anymore.
Yeah, 5 kilobytes.
Yeah.
We got in trouble again, technically, the other day for putting photos onto SoundCloud that were, I think they were 3.5 megabytes or something like that, which is 1,000 times.
Yeah.
That's
We've
crazy.
been the bad boys of SoundCloud this week.
Oh,
Very
man.
Elon Musk-like in our flouting of the traditional ways of operating.
Hey, man, when you're expanding at such a rapid rate, it's hard to keep it all in.
I know how Elon felt.
Yeah.
We're just like him.
You're just trying to keep the gut in, man.
Yeah. Okay, so Elon, by all accounts, had like a pretty shitty childhood in some ways. His mom and dad divorced when he was pretty young, and he made the decision to go live with his dad. You know, he's been kind of vague about why that was, and I think it crushed his mom. Him and his mom are super close still, and she was very involved through his whole life. But he made the decision to go with his dad. I think he's only ever really said like a boy wants to go live with his father or whatever. He's being a bit cryptic about it. And then his brother, Kimball, who's a partner with him on a lot of his early companies and is still a partner with him today, also went and lived with his dad through their kind of teenage years. And by all accounts, like this was a shitty time. Elon's dad has been like very diplomatic in public, just saying like he was an obviously bright kid and I really, respect him, very proud of how far he's gone. They've never spoken exactly about what the dad did or what he was like, but it was clear the home life was not very good. Elon has said like, look, I don't want to talk about it, but I have no fucking clue how anyone ends up the way that he ends up. He's a fucking broken person and none of my kids will ever meet him.
His dad.
Yeah. I don't know that he's ever
or
called
his dad's not his dad and he's from the future. This is all
he's just
a cover.
He's just a normal present man that Elon paid to act as his father.
Yeah, I don't know how you feel, but I feel like I'm 3 for 0 right
I think
now.
Honestly, this must be what it felt like when Nostradamus was first introduced. Like I have goosebumps. But yeah, so, I don't know if Elon called him a broken person. I'm paraphrasing, but he definitely said like, I don't know how anyone turns out the way he turned out. And he has said that his 5 children will never meet their grandfather. So that's got to give you like a ballpark of what that experience was like for him.
Sure.
Like you don't forbid your father from meeting your children unless something was pretty fucked.
Yeah. Something pretty cut and dry.
Yeah. Also, so then Elon was also apparently like viciously bullied at school, and this was South Africa in the 80s. So he was like, getting his ass pretty handed to him and beaten up and stuff like that. And I think that these were formative experiences for him. He, carried kind of a chip on his shoulder. He was a very science-oriented kid and a very hands-on kid. Like he was building toy rockets with his cousins and his brother when he was pretty young. They were messing with things. He was programming computers. They were really getting their hands dirty. He had a voracious appetite for knowledge and for mechanical engineering too. So he was like both kind of like a theoretical guy and a hands-on guy, which is something that becomes kind of like the guiding principle of his work for the rest of his life.
Right.
And they, even at this young age, like they said that, you'd walk up to them all sitting together and you'd be like, hey, what are you guys talking about? And they'd be like, we're talking about if like a rocket could ever be made that could theoretically take a whole bunch of people to Mars. Like literally, they were into sci-fi, they were into games. So like these kind of big romantic scientific notions were like really alive for them and were things that they legitimately discussed.
Well, great. We made a good one.
Yeah.
So it all worked out.
Yeah. So Elon.
Isn't that interesting? Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
But I love, as our constant readers or listeners will know, I love Malcolm Gladwell. In his book, David and Goliath, he talks about how if you go through encyclopedia, all the people in the encyclopedia that has like longer than 1 page written about them, he cataloged all of those people. Just sort of as an arbitrary measure of sort of their significance in history. And something like a crazy percentage, high percentage, 80 to 90%, all had really dysfunctional childhoods for various reasons.
There's a fascinating theory that I started to wonder about how like the relationship between comfort and talent, and the relationship between risk-taking and comfort, right? Like, definitely, like I've had a comfortable life in a lot of ways, but I've also had some pretty intense and adverse experiences. And even though those were terrible experiences at the time and I wouldn't like wish them on anybody else, like I do wonder if sometimes like those experiences are actually the source of like a lot of my strength. And I'm sure like you have had similar things and feel the same way.
100%. I think, this could be a whole topic. We'd need to bring in like someone who knows a thing or two, I think. But like, I think definitely, knowing that it's not going to get worse than the worst moment in your life is like a really powerful thing, and being like, the worst moment of my life has already happened.
Yeah.
And so like, I I'm uncomfortable now.
Yeah.
But,
And this is something that Elon has talked about himself. His personal low point, which we'll talk about almost undoubtedly, you could pick it to like 2008, which was like a really pivotal moment for him. That was like really everything in crisis on fire at the same time, and he survived it. And I think he draws on it as a source of strength. He's also expressed like outward worry that maybe his like 5 kids who are growing up with like extreme comfort will be like weak, or like won't have the drive exactly that he did. That's something that apparently he's thought about too.
Yeah. Well, what's the there's some. This is like an upper class cliche that their kids are all going to be psychologists because they have good genetics and good intellect, but no drive.
Right.
So like the thing is like all rich kids become psychologists.
People ragging on psychologists. That's such a weird thing to rag on them for.
I think if you're in the upper crust, being a psychologist is not what you want your kid to be.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Interesting. Yeah. So anyway, he's a brilliant kid. He grew up in South Africa. He had kind of a shitty time. It didn't hold him back that much. He wanted to get to the States. The quickest way for him to get to the States was through this like kind of series of like document bureaucracy loopholes where he had a Canadian grandfather. His grandfather, funny enough, was this kind of like, I would almost call him like an early libertarian, where in the 1940s, they were living in Saskatchewan, and he thought like Tommy Douglas was like too tyrannical, because Tommy Douglas was like running Saskatchewan at the time, busy creating the early versions of like the greatest modern Canadian social programs, like, universal healthcare.
Right.
And he was like, the government's too oppressive here. We have to move to South Africa. And so they moved the family to South Africa. But because his grandpa was Canadian, his mother could get Canadian citizenship just by applying for it, and then she could pass that on to her kids. So he got Canadian citizenship and went to university in Canada at Queen's in Kingston.
Hey.
It was there that he met the woman who would become his first wife, whose name is Justine. And then from there, he kind of like ping-ponged to University of Pennsylvania. And then after doing his degrees at the University of Pennsylvania, he ended up in Silicon Valley. Let's fly through the early part of his career. So the first thing that he kind of became known for was like an early version of a cross between like Yelp and Google Maps that was called Zip2. And Zip2 was like early in like 1995.
Richard, you don't have to insult me and explain what Zip2
you don't have to patronize me. Yeah. It's like
no, I don't know what Zip2
Elvis
and nobody listening
Walt
to this
Disney, Zip2. Zip2 was like a kind of like behind the scenes in early internet thing. It was basically like the people who first got businesses to list themselves on the internet along with like directions to where their business was. And back in the day, it was like insane to pitch this to businesses who did not yet understand the potential of the internet. And Elon, it was basically like this period of Elon's life was like, you can think of it almost like every cliche about early Silicon Valley, the .com boom that you could possibly think of, where they would like, Elon would apparently just like program all day and all night, like working on this software, would fall asleep in a beanbag chair for 4 hours at his desk, wake up, and then like keep typing.
Yeah, I was listening, he was saying in an interview, he was eating primarily hot dogs and oranges.
Yeah, or like Kimball apparently ate 4 meals a day at Jack in the Box, which was like right down the way. Right. And then there's also like a really kind of like a bit of a like tech punk rock culture around just how they did things. So like like they got internet by like cracking a deal with an internet service provider who was in the office below them, and then they just like drilled a hole through their floor and got them to like string an internet cable up, right? Like they did shit like that all the time.
Right. Hey, if you're not cheating, you're not trying, man.
Yeah. Anyway, Zip2 ended up kind of expanding a little bit and becoming kind of like a system that mainly worked through newspapers. So like newspapers would use the Zip2 platform to like host their early online classifieds, like the New York Times, the Chicago Tribune. They all were clients of Zip2. In the end, it got bought by Compaq, that giant of tech, which obviously everyone still exists and is still super relevant.
Sure.
And yeah, Elon got his first kind of real payday, and then was like, what's the next thing I want to fuck around with here? It's going to be banks. I want to make an internet bank. There's a crazy story where when he was still in Canada, Elon talked his way into an internship at Scotiabank. And while he was at Scotiabank, he apparently like pissed tons of people off by being like a little bit too like not ceding to authority, using the executive coffee machine, and just generally like kind of being in people's way.
Sure. So I mean, to be fair, he had just arrived from the future.
Again, yeah, that's right. Well, those things are all very normal.
Yeah. Well, it's all socialist later, right?
Yeah. So he tells this story where apparently he figured out this crazy deal where there was like all this South American debt that had been backed by the U.S. to like 50 cents on the dollar or something. So the U.S. had like propped up the economies of like Brazil and Argentina and other countries by these things called Brady bonds, which basically like the U.S. would guarantee the debt at 50 cents for every dollar that they were invested or whatever.
Right. And they're made of two families that had lots of kids.
And they drive a bus around.
Or whatever.
But Elon figured out that these bonds were trading at like 25 cents to the dollar. You could buy $10 billion of Brazilian debt, and the U.S. government had backed that at $20 million. Like effectively, unless you thought the U.S. Treasury was going to
not be able to pay you.
Yeah, it could default on its. Then if you bought $10 billion of Brazilian debt, you just made $10 billion. It's like free money.
Right.
So he like wrote this huge report, sent it to the Scotiabank people, and they didn't do it. Because they were like too gun shy about it. And he was, and you know, the thing that I read, a lot of where my knowledge is coming from the book on Elon Musk from 3 years ago by Ashley Vance. So that's where a lot of these anecdotes are coming from. And the Wait But Why blog posts by Tim Urban, which are really good. So that's my sources.
Who's Ashley Vance to Elon Musk?
She's a tech writer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the person that he agreed to write a book about him. Yeah. It's a really good book. I recommend it. And so like, but this lesson where he was like kind of like pissed off, and he was like, the banks won't do anything unless 3 other people are already doing it. There's like literally a pile of money they could just take, and they refuse to take it because it seems risky, even though it's not risky. That's like the whole point of this proposition he had made. So after Zip 2, he's like, I'm going to fuck with the banks. I'm going to make an online bank that has like, you know, no user fees and, you know, all these kind of like modern technical innovations, and it was called X.com. And
Catchy.
And in the end, X ends up merging with one of its early competitors, which is PayPal. PayPal was originally a separate company that merges with X, and they were kind of like, you know, expanding, and eventually they kind of like deposed Elon as the CEO in this weird coup where he was flying away on his honeymoon. Like he had never been on his honeymoon yet. He had married Justine, his college sweetheart from Kingston, and they had delayed their honeymoon like for ages and ages and ages. Finally, they decided to take it. So literally, he got on the plane, and when he landed, he found out that he had been replaced as the CEO of X.com.
Wow.
Because of some resentment between the people who had merged with them, like the companies that merged with them. There was like these two companies merging. There were two different visions for how things should go, and some of the people from the other company had convinced the board that that was the right thing, you know. Anyway, Elon lost control of the company. Also got incredibly...
Game of Thrones isn't just on HBO.
No, definitely
it's
not.
It's in our hearts, man.
He also got incredibly bad malaria on the honeymoon and came back, almost died. Like literally came back to America, was misdiagnosed and almost died.
Yeah.
And then, you know, lost control of the company.
He comes from a time when there is no malaria.
Yeah.
Yeah, his immune system was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. The only disease that he's immune to is the Venus pox.
Yeah, exactly. That's the last one we couldn't cure.
Yeah, it kills all the rest of us in 4 years. So, but he's like sitting pretty.
Yeah.
In fact, that's why he's here. He's here to fuck everybody who survives the Venus pox and make the new humanity.
Yeah, what we didn't expect was to find Venus pox on Mars.
Yeah, I know. You would think. Like, God, so devious.
Damn it. So he had malaria.
If only Jeff Bezos hadn't engineered the Venus pox. Anyway, so this, one of the things that happens with X.com/PayPal after Elon is deposed is it becomes a less disruptor, more conservative business. And I want to, we can make a really, really rough analog to what happened to Apple after Steve Jobs dies. It becomes less about delivering an exciting product and kicking and really pushing the boundaries of the industry, and more just about stewardship and being more conservative and more consumer and a little more profit seeking.
Like they want their stockholders to be happy. Yeah.
In the end,
make that money.
PayPal gets acquired for $1.5 billion. So this is a big payout. Elon comes away with several $100 million, as does his brother Kimball, who's been his partner in all of these. So Elon's kind of like, as this is dying down, Elon really starts to think about what he wants to do next with his life. And this is where he kind of comes to like the main mission of his life, which is like to put people on Mars. And he has like a whole large philosophical credo about why it's important to put people on Mars. The gist of which is basically that like humanity right now only exists on one planet, and if anything ever happens to this planet, we're kind of fucked. So we need to like back up humanity onto another planet, like a computer drive, like having a backup computer drive, so that humanity is not at risk of being destroyed forever if the Earth is destroyed forever, which, seems more like a reality with every passing nightmarish second we live.
Yeah.
So this is like a big ass romantic fucking idea. And generally people thought he was insane. Like generally people really didn't or people thought like, yeah, sure, it's another like crazy billionaire dreaming about making rockets. So what's...
Who was, I was listening to Bill Nye talk about him, and Bill was saying that like, the thing wasn't the how. He's like, we can do it. We just need to, Elon was the person that showed people that it's possible, or like made people believe that it's possible.
Right. So what is it about Elon Musk that makes him special? Because at this point, it's clear that there is something. There's very few people you could talk to who aren't completely bitter or have been burned by him or competed with him in some way, who would say it's a fluke. There's obviously something he's got that other people don't have. I would posit, just from reading about him, it seems that he has an unusual combination of factors, one of which is an ability to think large and romantically and logically, frankly, about the potential for humanity. Like in a time when we literally cannot turn on an already completed wind farm in Ontario because our fucking idiot government like has a hate boner for renewable energy, to have somebody who's like dreaming of interplanetary, colonization is exciting.
Yeah.
I think that's really exciting for people.
Yeah, well, he, like for me, because I do admire him, and because I can see, as you say, I can see the world he's talking about, and I believe in it, and I go, yeah, doesn't it make sense? And I feel like there are these obvious things like solar energy seems obvious.
Right. It is obvious.
Interplanetary
it's logical,
seems obvious.
Right.
And so again, like he's sort of one man stepping out of the crowd, and the crowd going like, yeah, him,
Well, and in a world where there's so much ignorance and negativity and like, actual right-wing reactionism that's completely anti-science and completely anti-logic taking power all over the world, to have like genuinely forward-thinking optimism and excitement is like, we need that so badly. And I think we're all really hungry for it. And I think that's why his message is so compelling. It is clear that one of the other things that he has that very few people also possess, in addition to being large romantics, is like an incredible grasp of the actual science behind things. Like back in the day, there's this really interesting story. No, I'll keep going for a second. Like basically in all of the industries in which Elon Musk has set up shop and like succeeded against all the odds, he's succeeded by creating very, very tangible innovations. It's not a mystery what happened. It was a long shot, but what happened was he identified that something simply could be done significantly better and cheaper than it was already being done. And the reason that he identified that, and very few other people identified that, is because he actually knows the science, right? So with the SpaceX stuff, he was like kind of like looking to be a wealthy backer to a kind of like vanity mission, not a vanity mission, like a publicity Mars mission where they were going to send like a greenhouse,
the gel or whatever.
Yeah, they're going to send like a greenhouse to Mars. You could
take a photo.
There'd be this plant growing in this gel. You could grow the gel yourself at home. You could compare your thing to the plant just to get people excited about Mars. And when he was shopping for the rocket to try to send it, he actually just gave himself 3 or 4 essential rocket science textbook education in rocketry and was speaking with all these rocketry experts, learned enough about rocketry to correctly judge that he could actually probably just build a rocket for cheaper,
Right.
and decided to go for it. So his innovation was that the current rocketry systems and the way that they're supplied and built and launched is like crazy inefficient, based on technology literally from the 60s still, not modern at all, and that he could do it better if he had enough money and tried. So he's the science guy and the money guy mixed into one. Right.
So all of a sudden, that drilling through the floor of his building to get free internet story like becomes quite metaphoric.
Oh, that's
You know what I
literally
mean?
his entire brilliance. With Tesla, the innovation was that lithium-ion batteries had finally gotten good enough that you could store enough charge in them to power a car for hundreds of miles. An electric car before the lithium-ion battery cell car, which is what Tesla is, could get like 30 miles.
Yeah, well, I mean, you had what, like 100 hamsters in there?
Just spin it. Just spin
running
it. And you
all
could
day.
spray Red Bull at them, and they go a little faster, but not a lot.
That's it. That was like the NOS injection.
Yeah. That's right. And it smelled horrible.
It smelled awful.
Shit flew at you from every single angle. Yeah. So it was like, basically, it was like these batteries were ready to be used in electric cars, and nobody had done it yet. And so in the past, you're a science guy. You're like, these batteries are ready to make an electric car. You have to go convince some rich dude to fund your thing. You go to Elon Musk, and he went, holy shit, these batteries are ready. Like, he knows the science well enough to go, no, this is a legit idea. This is ready to go. And then boom, 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 boom. He sees the way that the whole process of creating them can be made more efficient. Like SpaceX's innovation, obviously, it has a grand vision behind it, which is really important. The vision to get people to Mars, the romantic ideal of that, is like the fuel for the company. But what they actually did is just design a better rocket engine, which took them a fucking long time and was really hard, but they did do it. And then they created a way better way to build the rockets.
Right.
So they can...
And everything's reusable.
Exactly. And the reusability is a huge part of making it cheaper. They can undercut like the normal rocket companies in price by almost like 10 times, like 1/10 of the price.
Yeah.
And like, it's a lot of steps along the way. Like, they had to master this weird kind of welding that lets them not use rivets on the rockets. But it was really hard, but they figured out how to do it. So once they figured out this welding, then they can make it out of one big piece instead of a bunch of pieces welded together, which means it's lighter, which means that it's cheaper.
Well, and if you look at the Teslas, like, one of the things about Tesla is they just turned a profit, I think, for the first time ever, which is like a huge
a year or two
moment.
ago.
And they are outselling all other car companies in electric vehicles by like a long shot.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons that they're like, it's so exciting is because they make, I think a regular car makes something like 5%. That's the margin for profit, but on a Tesla it's 10 to 15%.
Yeah.
So they have to sell 1/3 less cars to make just as much money.
And that's all because of the supply chain. Because Tesla, and same with SpaceX, Tesla and SpaceX, they make 90% of their cars, right? They don't get anyone else to make almost anything. Part of what makes current cars so shitty is that the supply chains are really decentralized. There's like dozens of different companies making all the parts,
Hence
which
why
are
a
then
tariff
assembled.
will fuck up the whole industry.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's just an inefficient way to work. Like an example in the Ashley Vance book is like, if you want to change the font of like the E on the fuel gauge in like a Chrysler, it takes like a year because you have to like write it out, get it approved, get it sent to the company that makes it. They have to approve it. They have to make it. They have to ship it. Blah blah blah. And Tesla can literally make a software change and do it in a day.
File.
In a day, because then they can patch your car like a software remotely, right? It's just a completely different kind of car company and because they modernized and integrated their own supply chain, they have so much more control and they can be so much more flexible and they do everything cheaper.
Yeah, and I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos lately about people repairing their own Teslas.
Yeah,
because like you don't need like all the mechanics that you still have to be pretty knowledgeable. Yeah, but you don't need all the mechanics to like build a different car.
Well, this is one of the things. Like I don't know if we've actually talked about this. I think we might have talked about this a little bit on our climate change episode. But like this is one of the ways where I think Elon Musk is doing a certain amount of unambiguous good. Like, modern cars, gas cars, make no sense. They shouldn't exist. They're totally insane. Electric cars are completely superior to them in basically every single way. And indeed, like the Tesla Model X was rated like the best car ever. And it makes perfect sense that it is because, modern A gas engine has like hundreds of moving parts that all need oil to keep them moving without friction. It's like about 5% efficient in terms of like the energy that it creates. 5% of it goes into moving the car. The rest is lost as heat and like friction and waste and stuff like that. Whereas in an electric car, it's like 60% efficient. It has about 20 moving parts. It doesn't need any oil. Like for those people who don't know this, like the batteries in a Tesla are all concentrated around the bottom of the car, which radically makes its center of gravity safer to turn in. In the place where there'd normally be the engine in a gasoline car, there's a second trunk because there's just no need to put anything there. So, and they call it the frunk.
The frunk, baby.
Don't stop the frunk. So, and they're rechargeable, right? Obviously, they charge really fast. They charge in about half an hour. There's enduring problems about like, where does your electricity come from? If your electricity is still generated from like coal or from natural gas, it's not clean. But there's
solar city. But like yes, that is true. And I was having a little argument with someone the other day about this very thing, where they said, even if we switch to all electric cars, Canada runs primarily off of coal. That all that energy is still coming from coal, burning fossil fuels. So yes, but you're centralizing where the power is coming from. So like if each individual car has to burn fossil fuels, it's hard to revolutionize an industry that way. But if we can just change where, it's a billion different sources of energy.
Yes.
But if we can make all of the energy come from the same place, now we can change how we make that energy. You know what I mean?
Well, Canada has some, let's take this tangent. Like Canada has some serious decisions to make. And this is part of where I think part of the story of the Elon Musk thing is that like we can't let him do it all. We can't sit around waiting for him to do that. Like Elon Musk is not going to make Canada switch its grid to a clean energy grid. We need to be doing stuff like that. And that's a demand that we need to be making. And we absolutely should be making it. Canada's in trouble because it gets a lot of money from oil, especially in, your home province of Alberta.
Sure.
And it needs to make a serious decision about when it gets off. And it's not an if, it's absolutely a when and how it gets off and it makes that transition.
Yeah, well, again, in this chat with Bill Nye I was listening to, he was saying, he's like, the bad news is we are not going to run out of oil. Like, it's not what we're going to run out.
Yeah, we'll die before
we will die before we run
absolutely.
out of oil. Yeah, we have enough to last us the rest of human existence. But that's the bad part.
Yeah.
He's like, how easy would it be if we were like, oh, we only have a year's worth of oil left.
Yeah.
No, it's not the case. Yeah, we got lots of reserves. Yeah. So it has to be a conscious decision to get off of fossil fuels.
Yeah, and Tesla's trying to build charging stations. They have quite a few of them already, several hundred built across the United States and parts of Europe, and a little bit in Canada too. These are called superchargers. They're self-contained, solar-powered charging stations that will charge a Tesla in about 30 minutes. Or there's a feature, I actually don't know if the feature is live yet. I should look, where you can just pay a certain amount of money comparable to filling up your tank at a gas station, and it'll just instantly switch your battery for a charged one.
Right.
So then you'll be full right away. You don't have to wait 30 minutes.
That's cool.
It is cool.
I mean, yes, but then this all seems like it's biding time though between now and when cars drive themselves and no one owns a car. You know what I mean? Or you're very rich if you own your own car.
Yeah, I mean, and that's an interesting question too. Like they wanted to add some autonomous features to Tesla. I know they must be talking about it and thinking about it. I'd be shocked if they're not. You can call the car to where you are and it'll drive itself to you and you can get in. I do know that Elon Musk is not a pro AI guy, or he's deeply
it's
worried
his biggest fear,
about AI. And the idea that an AI would an artificial intelligence would become more intelligent than humans and suddenly exist and be able to use all of our technology to whatever desire it wanted. That's where it legitimately seems to worry him. So I don't know where he stands on self-driving cars. I actually haven't encountered very much other than those cosmetic features on the Tesla, it can drive to your location, it can park itself.
Yeah.
I don't know where they're at, or I don't think they've said very much about Teslas becoming self-driving the way the Google car or whatever is self-driving.
Right. Well, from what I understand, the only thing that sort of stands in the way of that is the 5G. Is when 5G comes, all of a sudden automated cars and things like that become more possible because you can get a cable, like a fiber internet connection, just out of the air.
And literally today, actually, the FCC in America, like the regulatory body on the internet, authorized SpaceX to go forward with its plan to create a full, comprehensive global satellite internet. So SpaceX is going to do 6,000 to 7,000 satellites in orbit around the Earth, and in theory, every single point on the Earth will have a line of sight to at least one of those satellites. So you can now do wireless satellite internet to the whole world.
Wow.
That's a plan that they're going to move forward with in the next 6 years. They have
Good
a 6-year
news for
window.
us, bad news for the bees, man.
Yeah, the bees are fucked. I mean, well, this is the thing is like we're going pretty fast here, and that's one of the biggest pros so far of Tesla and SpaceX is they've been so much faster and more responsive than the traditional kind of automotive or aerospace industries. Like they've been able to maneuver faster, like research and test and create things faster because they just had no like prior constraints or no prior way of thinking built up to keep them back. Mm-hmm. But it is a lot of change really quickly. And yeah, and it is, there are all these questions like who knows what kind of effects that will have. Mm-hmm. It's a bit worrying. It's also a bit worrying, like these ideas are sexy. I will never say that they're not sexy, but part of me...
What about when you and these ideas are old?
Yeah.
Will you still look at these ideas the same way with the same sparkle in your eye?
No, I would say so far everything has hinged on Elon Musk generally being the guy we want him to be, which is like this very visionary thinking and very determined and focused and driven like science. The guy who really balances like consumer desires, scientific knowledge, and like intense focus and determination, like superhuman determination to meet his goals and achieve them. I mentioned briefly 2008. Like in 2008, it looked like Tesla and SpaceX were both going to fail in the same month. Like SpaceX had in December of 2008, SpaceX had just a month or two before finally successfully launched a rocket into orbit, but it was like out of money. Tesla looked like it wasn't going to be able to make payroll. He was scrambling to get investors. Like his biggest venture capital firm turned on him and refused to fund him anymore. And in fact, then it went and funded a competitor instead of Tesla. And he was just like, apparently like losing his mind. Like it was so difficult. And then it all worked out. Like he raised the money. He ended up bottom lining a lot of the money in Tesla himself.
He put all his PayPal money on the line.
Oh yeah, completely. Yeah. He was like, he'd put all like, there was a point where he was like worried he'd have to choose. Like he'd have to be like, if I can either put all my money into Tesla or into SpaceX, but not both.
Right.
Like I can give one of them a better chance than the other. But in the end, it kind of just worked out. Like SpaceX ended up getting a big NASA contract that was worth $1.5 billion that kept them afloat. And Tesla, raised the money with him really putting himself on the line for it. And that was, like I said, apparently the low point for him.
Right.
So like that kind of and people have said anyone else would have broken under those circumstances. It was insanely high pressure. It was a constant series of never-ending crises, and he was like incredibly highly impacted by it, but he still survived. And the companies both, that was a serious turning point for both of them. I think they both really started to, their trajectories arced upward from that point, whereas at that point it looked like they could still easily fail at any point. And indeed, they still could. Like it's only one major disaster, maybe two, away from failing at any time.
Dude, I mean, like, look at that SEC stuff that happened just a few weeks
ago.
Yeah,
right.
It was like, is this going to be how it all goes down?
Well, there's so many interesting things about that SEC thing. So for those who are only sort of following it or not fully initiated, Elon Musk tweeted, we're going to take Tesla private again. Right now it's publicly traded. We're going to take it private at $420 a share. The funding has been secured on Twitter. And it's important to say that Elon Musk got a special authorization from the U.S. government to release and break important financial information using his Twitter as a legitimate way to tell the world what was going on with his companies because he loves using Twitter. So this is not just panic. Like he got the authorization to use his Twitter to do real financial business. But in this case, apparently he was just making a fucking joke about like 420 because he thought Grimes would laugh at it, his girlfriend.
Yeah, well, he he had just been on the Joe Rogan podcast where he, like, famously, Joe Rogan was like, I don't know, do you smoke weed? Is that a thing? And Elon Musk was like, well, no, but, you know, I'm here. And he smoked weed live on the air or whatever. The stock plummeted the next day. It dropped by like 2% or something. And then you know, obviously the world was exploding around his, like, Elon Musk smokes weed on, and so when he says, you know, 420 or whatever, $420 a share, he's making a reference.
He was trying to make a joke, but then apparently, I don't know, the SEC said it was fraud. Basically, they were like, and they fined him $20 million, and he had to step back from being the chairman of Tesla.
Well,
for 3
it
years.
is because if you don't own Tesla, you go. He says, "I'm going to buy them for $420 a share," and it hasn't been announced on the the NYSE.
If you own Tesla and the CEO of Tesla is telling you, and the chairman is telling you that they're buying,
I'm
for
buying more
share,
Tesla.
we have the money.
I'm buying as much stock as I can as long as that price is under $420. And people did. And that's why it's fraud.
It's because it affected the real market. 100%.
Yeah.
And I guess this is the fundamental question: is like, these large-scale romantic notions for humanity, which so far they do seem legitimate. Like, he's not just trying to make a buck here. It does seem like he legitimately cares about these things and really wants to pursue them as his life's goal. Do you trust this guy to do that?
Yeah.
And I think that there's a really interesting parallel to be made about capitalism as a whole, where it's like, at what point do we end the capitalism? And do these things belong to everybody? Now, he has famously open source patented lots of his things with Tesla and stuff like that.
Yeah, like the battery engines.
Yeah, the technology is like not proprietary, which is really good. But, you know, do we trust this dude to lead us into the new age? I would argue, like, you probably shouldn't fully.
Right.
At some point, we need to democratize and take the reins from things. But I also think that, like, he's a unique person and his gifts should be, like, you know, his gifts and focus and determination should definitely be used for everyone's benefit.
It's like when a player you don't like but plays for your team catches the ball. You're like, run. I want you to score this touchdown, even though I know that you have some problems. Also, I wonder how much should be said about, like Bill Murray said that after someone becomes famous, they have 2 years of being the biggest asshole that they will ever be, and then they'll slowly sort of come back to earth, or they won't.
Well, the thing that made SpaceX and Tesla successful, like I said, it was this combination of scientific know-how, recognizing the consumer market, and realizing that these innovations were possible and could be done. Elon's famous for always saying, apparently he has no tolerance for being told something's impossible. And if he asks you to do something and you tell him it's impossible, especially like under a deadline or whatever, then he's like, the only way you can argue with him that something's impossible is on the physics level. Like, it's like you have to argue that something is not possible under the laws of physics, and that's the only way he'll accept it.
Right.
The question is whether his judgment of those things will stay as strong as it is, or if his ego will get in the way. His ego certainly seems to have been riding very high lately. And many people,
we haven't even touched that Chilean pedophile comment. That
I know that Thailand. Yeah, well, apparently, so for those who, again, aren't in the know, earlier this year there was this big saga in Thailand after these floods. There were this soccer team stuck in these caves that were flooding, and there was a much vaunted rescue effort to get them all out, and in the end all of them, the word got out safely by a team of divers. Anyway, Elon Musk was in the headlines like every fucking day talking about how he was going to invent a submarine to go through the caves or whatever, which was a ridiculous idea because these caves were tiny, like 2-3 feet long. In some cases the water was only 1 or 2 feet deep. And you could barely fit through it anyway, just as a human, which is what they ended up doing. It was incredibly dangerous, and one of the divers, who was a rescue diver, did die in the rescue. So the idea that you would build a submarine and it would help you get them out is fucking insane. But apparently Elon was building it. It was in the news all the time that Elon Musk was building the submarine, and then I think one of the guy who was like the head of the rescue mission was just a bit sick of hearing Elon Musk in the fucking news all the time for this, and was like, the submarine would not have worked anyway. It wasn't very helpful. And then Elon Musk called him a pedophile on Twitter because he lives in Thailand.
Right.
This man who had just saved all of these kids and their coach and one of his comrades had died doing it. So that was an extremely poor lapse in judgment from Elon Musk.
Huge.
Apparently, he's been working his ass off. He said he was working 120-hour weeks, and he's very tired, and it was not at his best. He's been popping a lot of Ambien.
Yeah.
Again, is this the person you want overseeing all your shit right now?
Yeah,
and like
again, I don't know, but he's got the ball, and I want him to run.
Well, so far, it's been like sort of like, you know, oh, Elon, roll your eyes, you're such a dipshit.
Yeah.
Like, it's fine, keep making the thing, but like, it is a bit worrying to think of. It's a bit worrying to think of that, like, you know, we're still not on Mars. We're still not, the Tesla has not yet made its revolution complete. That's probably going to happen with the release of the Tesla Model 3, which is the new model of the Tesla, which is supposed to hit the $30,000 price point, which would be by far the cheapest car Tesla's ever produced. And if that car comes to market, that's when we're going to start to see a really, really serious change in the way things are being done. And so far, you know, things are on Elon Musk time schedule, which means that like he keeps promising it's going to be done really soon, and it's probably going to take a lot longer than that because he's an eternal optimist apparently about his own deadlines. But like, you know, not to be too much of a fear monger here, but like, let's have a sober thought about this. Like, one of Tesla's features is that they can be patched remotely from anywhere, anytime. Right. So like sometimes you'll go to bed and you'll wake up and your Tesla has a new feature, which is really cool and people love. It's like, what if Elon Musk goes fucking crazy and wires them all to kill us all? You know, like that's theoretically possible. And that's obviously a cartoonish and extreme situation. But what I'm saying is that like, it's a sexy idea that this billionaire is going to save us all, but he already freaked out and called a hero a pedophile. And like, you know, it's not like it's going to get easier for him from here on out. Also, it's pretty realistic that if things keep getting delayed, like these changes won't really come to fruition until his lifetime is ending, a lot of them. So who takes over? Who's the next person in line? Do we trust that person? Do we know who that person is? Like if the way we get to this point is by, you know, concentrating all this power in one place, and sure, with Elon, who's this romantic guy who had this hard childhood, who's like, you know, combative and tolerates no failure and kind of revenge seeking sometimes in the press and sort of egocentric, but who is brilliant and legitimately romantic about the idea of furthering human civilization and protecting humanity from disaster. What happens if it's a slightly different person who's way shittier? Right. You know, and not just the Apple version where it's like it's some corporate motherfucker who's just gonna like make everything consumer focused, but like what if it's somebody who like legitimately sucks? Right. You know what I mean? That's worrying.
Sure. And so I wonder if it's realistic to assume he'll die when we know that he will just come back.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he doesn't so much die as he does just leave our timeline.
Elon Musk
to fix
is like
the problems that he started.
Elon Musk is like an undying Superman, is like a more comforting scenario than many of the ones I can think of.
Yeah, sure, that'd be great. I mean, at least he has a while to get his shit together.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I have to say, I'm a bit relieved that this episode has been about Elon Musk versus like some deeply hopeless crack that has been cut through our social.
I wanted to do this episode because there is hope in it. There's hope that we can get off these oil dependency. There's hope that we can make space flight accessible. I mean, it's still part of the problem is right now these are a revolution for the rich, right? Because the Teslas have been, they're luxury vehicles, and the idea always, the stated strategy was to enter the market and disrupt with luxury vehicles, and then finally create more affordable normal people cars later down the line. I think that'd be great, but and that's the, you know, that plan is still proceeding the way that it was laid out. I think there can be more done to make this a more equitable revolution. Like, I think that we should invest in free solar charging stations as a like, you know, country. Yeah. We should have those things. We should have way more rebates for these kind of cars. They should be super accessible to people. You know, like these are good ideas, and Elon is brilliant for having the drive and the focus and the money and just the will to make these ideas feasible for the world to adopt. But once we have them, and once we have this technology and these ideas, the way we use it is still up to us. And again, like to tie this back into the kind of the thesis statement of this whole podcast, like this, we will face a decision point where it comes to be like, how do we manage this technology? Is it capitalism where we're going to charge people and make money off of it? And not just make money in the sense that, like, it's like, are we the Teslas of the world who, even though they are a company that makes money, they have a less like rip-off model than traditional cars. Traditional cars, it's all about getting you back to the dealership over and over and over, extracting money from you, buying the new model this year, which has slightly new features that they've been holding back so that every new model has a different thing. The Teslas, meanwhile, like update themselves. The new features are added as they roll out. They don't have year models. They almost never have to be serviced, although they will look at them once a year for you for free, just to make sure nothing's wearing down, but they don't need maintenance the same way that a car does. Like, what's the philosophy of how we keep going? Who is this stuff for, and how are we going to manage it for the future? And this is really important questions that are not fully being answered by Elon.
Right. And he's got the ball.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. This seems like a natural stopping point.
I agree.
Yeah. Guys, if you like this episode, please share it with your friends.
Tweet at Elon.
Tweet at Elon. Tell him about our podcast.
Yeah, Elon, if you want to subscribe to our Patreon, you can come on the show.
Yeah, we'll happily have you.
Yeah.
Check out our Patreon. Check out our new website. It is up and running properly. And I don't know. Just stay tuned. Keep loving, keep living, whatever, man.
Live, laugh, love, as Elon Musk always says.
That's right. Until next time, I'm Jamie.
I'm Richard.
It has been Explain It to Jamie.